I'm going to kind of start here a little bit with the bookkeeping. Again, I was always scared of that, scared of using the technology. What should we be looking for in accounting software as a small business?
That's a really good question. So in this day and age, what I tell people to look for in accounting software is you want something that is user-friendly, approachable, and understandable. And so when you think about like the big 5 accounting softwares on the market right now, which is Intuit's QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Oracle by NetSuite, Xero, some of the other ones out there, what they have that sets them apart in the marketplace is not what they do for you, but how easy they make it for you. So for example, I'm what's known as a QuickBooks Pro Advisor at the elite level, which means I've just been with QuickBooks for a long time. I don't sell it, I don't push it, but I'm certified by them. And one reason why I love QuickBooks is because it's completely Googleable. Meaning if you come across a problem, you call their support and literally the first question they ask you is, have you Googled your problem? Because the answer is in Google in 5 or 6 different formats, in hundreds of different answers. You can find written answers, you can find video answers, you can find walkthroughs, all of that. And so what you want is something that's approachable and understandable. And QuickBooks may not be the thing that works for you. It may be FreshBooks, but again, FreshBooks has made their stuff Googleable. So if the ease of access isn't there, then it's not something you want to be working with. The other thing I tell people to watch for is in the accounting world, you're using multiple systems. You have something for bookkeeping, you have your point of sales system, you have customer relations. All of these deal with the accounting things, and so you want to find something that communicates seamlessly across all platforms. And again, those big 5 often have that built in to where if you're using a well-known POS system, it's probably already got integrated into its software communication with your accounting system. You don't have to do anything outside of just say, hey, I need these 2 to talk to each other. And so by doing that, you streamline and bring everything into a single place, which makes it easier for you to manage.
All right. So in our small business owners, how many of you do your own bookkeeping? Let me see a show of hands. How many outsource their bookkeeping? So Jessica, when should someone look to outsource their financial management?
I always advise that the first thing you're outsourcing is your financial management, unless you are a numbers person. Because the number one thing that causes small businesses to close is not lack of customers, it's mismanagement of money. If the funds aren't there, it doesn't matter how many customers you have because your doors are still gonna close. And so you need your accounting records well-maintained, up-to-date, consistent and ready so that when it's time to go get lending or funding or apply for a grant or whatever you're trying to do in your business, looking at that next big purchase, you have the numbers there ready to go. And so if budgeting's not your wheelhouse, if keeping track of a checkbook isn't your thing, the first thing you should outsource is that financial management.
All right. Well, the next one I'm going to kind of move on down to Jim and Chad. So we're talking about companies, small businesses, accounting programs, and all their client data and stuff like that. How easy is it for bad actors to get into that for most small businesses, and what can they do to protect themselves?
Well, as she was saying, a lot of the accounting software is now online, right? Back in the day, it used to be standalone applications that would reside on your local machine, so we had other issues to worry about, like backups and data and that sort of thing. But now, QuickBooks and a lot of other known software are all hosted online, and because of that, there's security concerns that you have to be aware of. You have to choose good passwords. You have to use adequate security measures when you're using this. And the main thing I tell small businesses is make sure you turn on 2-factor authentication. Make sure you turn on token-based authentication. That is, if you don't understand what that is, basically 2-factor authentication or token-based authentication is where when you log into a software, if it allows this level of ability, when you go to log in, you put a username and you put a password in, and that's great. But then it's going to text you a code to enter in, or it's going to look up an authenticator on your tablet or on your computer or on your phone or whatever device you're logging in on, and that will just keep unauthorized access from your accounts. Because here's the thing, if they get into things like QuickBooks, and depending on how much you integrate QuickBooks with other things, and all the other software packages are like this, you can integrate it into your bank accounts, you can integrate it into your, your POS, your credit card processing services, things like that. If somebody was able to get in your QuickBooks account, they can do a lot of damage, right? So if you turn on two-factor authentication, you can keep that from happening. And to take two-factor authentication, that whole idea a step further, anything that allows two-factor authentication, you should use two-factor authentication for. Because nobody's going to be able to, even if they know your password, even if they know your email address, they're not going to have your phone, probably. They're not going to have your email address, probably. They could, but probably not. But they're not going to have all these additional layers of security. And it's going to be much more difficult for somebody to break into your accounts. And it will therefore make you more safe. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not a lot of technology. It's not a lot of hardware or software to make that happen, right? So that I would just suggest to small businesses that you start looking at that sort of thing around financial software, bank software, anything that you have, for your business.
And the other thing I'd say on that is don't trust anybody electronically, especially when it comes to money. It's not too difficult for somebody to socially engineer someone to get control of their email account. I'll give you a quick story. So I built a house about 5 years ago, and as we were going through the process, right, you take a construction loan, they do the planning, they have a draw, you pay them some money, they do the slab, they have a draw, you give them some money. So my contractor emailed me, very similar vernacular that he used in his email. It's like, hey, Jim, which he always says, hey, Jim. We're changing our accounting, and we've created an account for each one of the homes we're building. So on the next draw, which is due tomorrow, please send it to this account. I thought, wow, that's a little strange. Normally, we go down to the bank and I give him a check, but not that big a deal. So I knew I was meeting with him the next day, and I said, I'll just talk to him about it then. So I talked to him. We were going over some changes in the house, and I said, oh, by the way, I'll wire that money to you today. And he said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, you sent me that email, and I showed him the email. I said, Jim, that's not me. And it was coming from his email account. So anytime you're dealing with money, don't trust anybody electronically. Call them. Go talk to them. Make sure that before you send a dime anywhere that is not an established common thing that you normally do, make sure you verify it in person.
Thank you. And that kind of leads to another. So how many small businesses out there actually do any type of training for phishing or any of the tricks that they try to use to get into your computer systems? Do any small businesses do any employee training on that? Wow. So, Jim, can you talk about, and Chad, what kind of trainings are out there that they can kind of dive into? Because usually that's probably where the bad actors are going to get in through. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. The human element is probably the most dangerous portion when it comes to cybersecurity. When you look at a training program, which I recommend, it should build a security awareness, right? Not necessarily a training. And here's what I mean by that. As humans, we forget things. So that training you did 6 months ago to talk about security is actually kind of pointless unless it's for some sort of compliance. If you look at studies on memory, the number one is the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It states as humans, we forget 80% of what we've learned within a month. So you need an awareness program that is keeping security consistently in front of your end users and your employees to make sure that they're always thinking about security. Of course, we offer a security program because that's why I'm talking about it. But I would look at security programs that keep a consistent approach on it rather than kind of a one and done thing and think you're just safe because you trained your people once.
Nice. So how many actually do your own in-house IT? Okay, we've got some out there too. Have you ever had an assessment done on what you're doing for your IT? Chad, can you talk about a little bit what your department or your your division of Homeland Security can do for small businesses?
So we work with small and medium businesses, large business. We work with everybody, and we come out and we will look at your organization and we'll work with your IT and network security folks, third-party vendors, whoever you're working with. And what we do is we try to look at a comprehensive risk assessment of kind of what you're doing. So what that means is we come and look at, what financial applications are you using? What security do you have in place? What are you doing about the human element? Are you doing phishing campaigns? Are you doing security awareness training? Are you doing network security training, right? We come in and look at that, and we have pre-made assessments, right? They're based around different cybersecurity frameworks. And you don't necessarily have to adopt a framework. I know that's probably not going to be a lot of small businesses are going to be out adopting cybersecurity frameworks, but that doesn't mean we can't assess you around a particular level of framework, maybe NIST or cybersecurity framework or something that's out there to give you a view of what you look like from a risk perspective. Because here's the thing, if you don't know what risk you have in your organization, how can you ever expect to protect your organization, right? How can you know that the training you're doing or the phishing campaign you're doing or the people you're hiring, whether it's third-party contractors or vendors or people you're hiring in your organization, how do you know that they're meeting the needs of the organization and reducing your risk if you don't ever assess yourself, right? And that's what we do for organizations. There's no charge for us. We're part of the government's already paid for. We come out and we'll do these assessments and provide you reports. And then also we're advisors. So we don't just do a report, give it to you and say, have a nice day and walk away. We will sit there and give you that feedback and mitigation information. We'll provide you advice and we'll provide you feedback on what we think, you need to do. Now, we don't do it. We're not hands on keyboard. We don't come out and do it for you. That's where you would need to hire your own vendor, third party contractor, whoever, but you'd have to get your own organization or people or hire somebody in your organization to make the changes, but we can provide you the information to show you what your risks look like and tell you about the threats that you have.
Nice, and very valuable tips there. And one of the reasons we have partnered and love to bring you here is because most people, including myself, working with small business, didn't realize the assessments that can be provided for free. Which I hope you take advantage of it, because in this day and age, I don't think it's if your computer systems will be probed. It's just a matter of when and how far they'll go. And as we get more and more technologically advanced, I think we're going to see more and more in this, and I'm excited to have Amy Wood here. And Amy, everybody's talking about this AI, machine learning type. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And then we'll get into the cybersecurity aspects of it.
Awesome. Well, AI is, there's a million advantages, and I could probably talk about them all day. But the biggest one that I think most people will recognize right away is just the ability to get to a rough draft faster, right? So it increases productivity, and it's coming. It's coming. It's already here. It's widely known, and your kids are using it already, and that means the next generation of workers are using it already. And so the business advantage that is given to you whenever you adopt some level of AI within your organization, just leveraging it for what it can do for you, is exponential. There are challenges with it, of course. It's new. It's a brand new technology. There haven't been models proven out for every adaptation of it. There's not a lot of regulation now. There's all kinds of things happening constantly around policy, how to safeguard us better with AI. But it doesn't change that the fact that it's coming, it's real, and it's worth looking into and playing with, and at least getting yourself familiar, now.
So do you see the strengths of it right now in more like the marketing aspect of small businesses right now? as compared to maybe machine learning where the point of sale systems, you know, they can give you reports for retail on where are the strengths of this right now?
Sure. Yeah, so there's different models, right? So there's language models, and those are based around words, right? How does it interpret words that are written or spoken? There's visual models that are working with images and video and how it could help with, you know, editing things quicker whenever you're in a post-production state or something like that for the creative spaces. For marketing in a small business, like to make it really tangible to you, they talked about needing social media to be posted every day. You could hop on ChatGPT and say, hey, I own a bakery and I need to write 5 social media posts this week. Could you please help me with that? And kind of interact with it in a way like it's a teammate on your team with you. And guess what it'll do? It'll draft those 5 social media posts for you, copy paste, and you just did your social media for the week. So there's great benefit in that for the marketing aspect, but there's also robotics, how AI would work in a physical realm, like actual movement. And then the people who are just studying AI in general, just the capability of the new technology.
All right. I'm going to go down to the cybersecurity people on the end of the table and talk about what you've seen, the strengths of how can you use that to protect yourself, and then what are some of the drawbacks and how can you protect yourself from, you know, being kind of the victim of some of the AI, you know, where people are kind of taking your identity?
So one concern we have with AI is back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody remembers getting the email where, you know, the African prince was giving you $1 million, right? Or $10 million or whatever. Everybody's uncle died and was getting $10 million. But you could easily read that email and realize, like, hey, this is not true. There was grammatical errors. There was things that just didn't make sense. The problem with AI now is the ability to scam is getting far, far greater, right? Like, it's going to be very difficult to start understanding if a scammer uses a good ChatGPT or a good language model to help them write scams and do that sort of thing. We've already seen it happening, and so the emails are going to be crafted. They're going to have access to information they would have not had access to through social media and things like that. So they're going to be able to put things in emails that may make it seem more real than it really is. So the ability to scam people is going to get a little more difficult to detect. The other thing is AI allows, it's able to look out on the internet and kind of see what's going on, and it can put a lot of things together and cross-reference things and put it all in front of a person. That's a good tool in one sense, and then in another sense, if you have, you know, evil purposes or malicious purposes, it's a tool that can help them be that much better at fraud, scams, things like that. And we've already seen examples of this happening. AI, I personally think AI is a great thing. It's a tool. It's like a hammer. You got to figure out what you're going to use it for and how you're going to use it. Once you understand it, it's a great tool to use. But as he said earlier, trust no one. I mean, you just have to go in with that mentality that everybody's lying to you, and they have to prove. And I echo what he said. Do not be afraid, and make sure we go back to the old ways of picking up the phone, going to somebody, and calling and confirming things, because the scams are going to continue to come. They're going to get better. They're going to be harder to understand. And if you send money outside the United States, we as the federal government are probably not going to be able to get it back for you, right? And I've personally seen people scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars over different scam methods. And once it leaves the United States, we can't really do anything with it, right? So, and it's just going to get more difficult. So make sure you're understanding that technology's changing. You have to trust no one. You have to verify, right? And everything we said is absolutely true. So.
Yeah, I think as far as utilizing AI, it is a fantastic tool, but as the young lady said earlier, it gets you to a rough draft faster. AI, machine learning, all of that should never be allowed to make the decision for you. So if it cranks out an email, don't just copy, paste, send, you're done, right? Always put your human eyes on it. We use AI at Arctic Wolf for better correlation, to get information into our analysts and engineers faster, but we never make a decision without putting human eyes on it. And I think if you utilize AI yourself, you should put human eyes on it before you make a decision. Don't let AI make that choice. And I'll put this into an example. Our drones that the military is using flying over combat zones can absolutely see an enemy combatant, and they can almost 100% guarantee that those people in that group are enemy combatants. But should the machine make the choice to fire a rocket? Absolutely not. The human should make that decision. Now, that may be a little bit triggering, and it's not as extreme as or it's more extreme than I'm talking here, but if you're utilizing it, always put your human eyes on it and make that decision. Don't let the machine make the decision for you.
All right.
And I can actually add to that example in the accounting world. There was this huge, when ChatGPT came out, bookkeepers panicked. Our jobs are going. Then we all sat down and started asking ChatGPT intricate bookkeeping questions, and it got it wrong every time. Because the thing that most people don't understand about AI is artificial intelligence, but it's also somebody sitting in a room writing code. And if the code's wrong, the answer will be wrong. And in accounting and bookkeeping and business, you can't write a code for human interaction and for human understanding and nuance. And so because of that, it's a great tool, it's a good resource, but you as the human have to override the errors of the code. And you have to be aware that just because ChatGPT tells me to do this does not mean it's accurate.
Thank you. Well, we're here for small businesses, and so what I want to do is, what kind of questions do y'all have for our panelists? Because I know you have come here to get information. I know AI and cybersecurity, our concerns are of interest. So I actually want to hear from you. If you have questions, you have comments, please raise your hand and we'll get to you. And I'd really like to hear from you, the small business owners. Come on, don't be shy. I know small business owners aren't shy. They had to step off a big cliff to start a business, so I know they're not shy. Wow.
Well, I feel like I'm cheating because I know Amy, but you're in the NSBA, you're on the Board of Trustees. I know for a fact that you guys talk about this stuff in Washington. What is the federal level of small business advocacy talking about when it comes to AI?
I think there's a pretty positive vibe around it mostly. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. So in the room, there are procurement people to work with the state government, right? In order to do that, you have to go through a process of responding to like an RFP, a request for proposals. Has anybody in the room ever written a response to an RFP as a small business owner? They're like 30-page documents. They're really intricate, and every single organization wants them done differently. They have very specific protocols, all the things that you have to follow, but they're making opportunity for small business to work with these big government agencies. But it's the gap between what my small business can produce to respond to these requests is giant. Like, there is a huge gap. AI can help me. I can put an RFP that may be written some in legalese, some with requirements that are different wording than I might use in my normal culture. And I can put that into ChatGPT or another one of the language models, and I can say, can you help me interpret this section of content? Can you help me understand as a small business owner? And I've trained my language model and my AI so it knows I own Flint Avenue. It knows I'm a woman-owned small business. It knows I'm a hub zone business. I'm a DIR business. It knows all those things about me already, so it can read that content for me and extract red flags. And then I can say, how should I address this particular thing? And it'll actually draft the content for me. So it feels really heavy when we're talking about technology. It shouldn't be scary to a small business owner to try using it. The best thing you can do is download the ChatGPT app on your phone or get onto the language model online and just try prompting it as if it's another person in your space and ask it the questions that are challenging you. And then, I mean, like I had it review an MSA agreement with a company that wanted to work with me. And I don't have a big legal team out back. I can go throw this contract and say, hey, can you give a response on this? But it scanned it for me and it gave me some red flags that I should maybe consider. And I think if we start looking at what AI could do for you, what technology could do for you, and don't be afraid of it, because there is so much more. I mean, definitely safeguard. Safeguard, get an Arctic wolf to come help you make sure that you're guarded and your team knows what to do. But don't be afraid to try some new things because it's going to be your competitive edge. And that's not going to stop. Like, this is how you're going to survive the next 5 years in business, is being able to adopt some of these technologies. And I think everything that I hear in DC is just like that. Like, they want to equip small businesses to know more, to learn more, just like Governor Greg Abbott's doing with this conference today. He's trying to give you an opportunity to be equipped to have more opportunity.
All right, thank you. Questions? Wow, this is a very quiet crowd. All right.
I have a bookkeeping question. Okay, do you have any advice on, so I use QuickBooks. That's a first. So I use QuickBooks, but I integrated it late, like after I had already started my business, and I don't think I have it set up correctly. But it's not the best tool for me. Right now I'm just using it for like payroll and things like that. So do you have any suggestions on tutorials or Instagram accounts or anything like that that I could follow to grow my knowledge on having tip-top perfect bookkeeping techniques?
Okay. One, that's an amazing question. But there's no such thing as tip-top bookkeeping techniques.
That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So there's always room for growth. And here's the perfect example. I work in the bookkeeping world, and I'm constantly Googling questions my clients are asking me because every industry has its own nuance, and every business inside that industry has its own nuance. Bookkeeping is what works for you may not work for somebody else. The things that I would recommend would be, as far as like YouTube channels and stuff, if you're working with QuickBooks, QuickBooks has an amazing YouTube channel. Absolutely amazing. If you're just wanting to learn like standard accounting practices and stuff like that, I would recommend looking into who are the financial giants in your industry and seeing what they're doing. So for example, in the finance world, that would be somebody like Dave Ramsey or Warren Buffett or those type of guys, and they all have best practices. They all have, this is what you should do. If you're, I don't know what your business is, if you're a florist or something, see who in the floral industry you want to become, and then start trying to figure out what they're doing. Either that's hey, I'm this little florist in West Texas. I'm trying to build a business. Can you give me best practices for financial management? Other things to do would be to reach out and sit down with a bookkeeper or a CPA in the area and just be like, I'm trying to do this myself. What tips or what things should I change about how I am doing it right now? Or what areas can I improve? What areas should I be tracking? Am I over tracking or under tracking things? And both bookkeepers and CPAs, which are two completely different things, just so you know. I'm a bookkeeper, I'm not a CPA. We each have our own strengths. We each have our own weaknesses. And so talking to people in the industry will help. But as far as just learning the software, most of the big softwares out there today have either through their website training resources. Almost all of them have YouTube channels with hundreds of hours of walkthroughs. And the other thing is, you come to a problem, Google it. Watch 5 or 6 different videos on it. They'll all probably say the same thing in different ways.
Can I add on to that just a
Absolutely.
little bit? Because I was a business owner who did not know how to do books, and now my company has grown exponentially, and I'm like, oh, hey, I need someone else to know how to do the number thing. I found the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. I went through that. That was amazing to help me understand, business strategy, but also to really know my numbers and why it's important to know my numbers. And then whenever I talked to a bookkeeper, I knew what I was after. Also, Kauffman Foundation is another great one. Kauffman Fast Track has just a financial course you can take. It's also free. The book Entrepreneurial Finance by Steve Rogers, spectacular book. He's a Harvard professor who taught entrepreneurial finance for small businesses. He actually taught my Fast Track class. But that's another great resource. The SCORE mentors they mentioned earlier, there's almost always somebody who's really good with finances in those areas too. So, I mean, it may not be the platform answer you're after, but knowing what kind of data you need to be collecting, like what's most important to you to know your numbers so you can grow your business, those would be my resources.
And then for QuickBooks specifically in our area, the SBDC in Lubbock hosts multiple QuickBooks trainings. We have one coming up in October. I actually lead those trainings, and so I make it very approachable. We have one coming up in October, then there'll be another one sometime in the spring. But those are going on in most of the SBDC offices in the region. I'm normally up in Amarillo at least once a year. I'm down in Midland twice a year. I've done several in actually regionally. I did one in Muleshoe. I'm just getting plugged in with the SBDC, the economic development corporations in your towns, the Chamber of Commerce's in your towns, and letting them know, hey, I would really like this resource available. They almost always already have a connection and can bring somebody in if the small businesses are saying, hey, I want a training on this.
All right, thank you. Jim, I'm going to kind of start winding our way down here a little bit. Is there something that you really think is important for small businesses to understand in cybersecurity technology that I haven't asked you?
The thing I would say is until you grow to a certain size and you're able to staff first IT and then security people on top of that, focus on what you do well in your business, right? You might be great at building cars or buildings or running pipe or something. Focus on that. Rely on other third-party vendors that focus solely on cybersecurity to do that for you, right? Until you grow your business, and hopefully you do grow your business to a place where you do need to have your own staff. But let folks that live and breathe that world do it. I can't do what you do, so I would hire you to do that. If you can't do what I do, hire a team that can go do that or a vendor that can go help you do that.
All right, thank you. I think we had another question right back over here.
I think you actually probably just answered my question.
Oh.
Most of us, I don't want to speak for the other small businesses here, can't really afford full-time IT personnel or cybersecurity people. So I think that's what we all struggle with, especially in our age demographic. My kids have no problem taking these challenges on, but for me, I don't love doing cybersecurity. I don't love doing PCI compliance for the credit card company. I don't love any of these things, but man, it comes at you in chunks. So I guess just some common sense approach to that. And you just mentioned hire it out. But do you have any other recommendations for us in the interim?
Yeah, you can, and by farming that out to a third party, I mean, we do cybersecurity for a lot of companies, usually medium businesses, but we also partner with local MSPs or managed service providers that can also take on your IT needs, your desktop needs, what have you. And they will actually white label our service, because our service generally happens, okay, we see something going on your device or your network, and then we'll call you and say, you need to go fix this, and we'll tell you how, but we're not gonna go fix it for you. With a local MSP, we will work with them, and they have the staff to go and fix that issue. So we're the cybersecurity experts, and we're dealing with the people that are local to you that can come and help you do that. So you don't have to go out and hire a firm like Arctic Wolf. I would look at your local MSPs that also work with us in order to handle the PCI compliances, the day-to-day upgrading and patching of your systems, and monitoring your systems at 24/7, 365.
You know, another good option too for the small business stuff too is reach out to your local colleges and universities to see if they have cybersecurity programs. They may have internship programs that they work with small businesses or municipalities in the area, and just see if they have some that are overseen by faculty there. They need the experience, and they're overseeing. They're kind of overseen by faculty and stuff. So that may be an option too to take a look at. Have either one of y'all worked with any the colleges and universities in their programs and the oversight from their faculty?
We actually write the curriculum for UTSA, which is the #1 cybersecurity program in the country. But we have our offices strategically located either near Cyber Command for the military or for the colleges, BYU, University of Waterloo, UTSA, and a couple others.
So, federal government, we work with UTSA. We work with a lot of, they're called Centers of Excellence. UTSA is one of them. We work with a lot of them. There's generally a big cyber nexus around these organizations. That's why Arctic Wolf is there. A lot of different managed service providers and different people are there. So yes, we do. We provide information to them. We provide services to them ourselves, and then we work with them in a lot of different ways as well. And just to answer your question, I also want to kind of chime in. The federal government also offers a lot of CISA, DHS. We offer a lot of services that can augment some of the things you're doing in the private sector, right? So you're going to need somebody to work for you to do it. So you're going to need a managed service provider, an Arctic Wolf, to do the specific work. But some of the technical services you need, such as vulnerability scanning, threat information, vulnerability information, penetration testing, phishing campaigns, some of that you can just buy from companies, and we also provide those services at no charge. So our cybersecurity advisors can come out and do that for you and get you set up with those resources at no charge if it's something that you need to do. You can find all of the information on those services at CISA.gov, CISA.gov. That's our website, and all of our services and cybersecurity services are listed there.
Spell CISA.
CISA. Cybersecurity and Information Security Agency. I didn't name it, but it's a little redundant. But that's the name. We're basically kind of known as the cybersecurity agency in the federal government. But CISA, CISA.gov is where you can find all those resources.
And then to talk about the PSI compliance, since you mentioned that specifically, depending on who your payment processor is, some of them actually already have that built into your processing platform, and you don't actually have to do anything extra. It's already built into that platform. By using that platform, you already meet all of the PSI compliance guidelines simply by using that platform. So that's something to look into as well.
All right, Amy, any last thoughts or anything I didn't cover that you would think would be helpful for a small business?
Probably just don't be afraid of tech. It's a good thing. It's a fun thing. It's something that can increase productivity quite a bit. Jobs aren't going away because of AI necessarily. I mean, I'm sure if you were a manufacturing line worker, there's potential that they've built a robot to do that part. But in reality, the only way you're going to lose a job is because somebody learned AI and you didn't. Only way you're going to lose that customer is because that business can get better profitability margins that you can't get because they've leveraged technology to do it. And so don't be afraid of it. Start pursuing it. And if you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you after.
All right, well, thank you. We're out of time, but please give me a big hand for our panel here. I hope you were able to get some good quality tips. I think most of them will be around for a little bit if you have any